Hey guys, so today's video is going to be me telling you about my suicide story. As some of you might know that it has been Suicide Prevention Week, and I had quite a few messages sent to me asking if I was planning on telling my story for this week, all about my suicide. And at first I was adamant no, because my suicide story is something that is incredibly personal, something that is extremely hard to think about, let alone talk about. And I don't particularly want to have to relive. But after I received more emails from different people wanting to hear my story and wanting to know how you can make a decision of suicide or how I managed to decide to live, I decided that I would tell it. And I've spent days thinking how I can tell this story, and I'm not gonna lie, it has made me feel sick. I feel really anxious about this because I'm gonna have to tell the story of the worst moment of my life to a camera that's gonna then go up on YouTube, where anybody that can click on the link can see it. And I mean, I've told the story before to therapists and doctors, but they have to keep it confidential. They've got to keep it confidential. So this video is gonna be extremely hard and painful, and I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to make it through without tearing up, but I'm going to try. Explained in previous videos, I had attempted suicide a few times before my last attempt, which was the most biggest attempt. And so I didn't think I'd talk about that, because my last one was the one where I actually took the tablets and was actually waiting for my life to end. And I'll give you a bit of an overview, sort of why I decided that suicide was for me. Some of you know that I have health issues, and that's sort of where my anxiety sort of came from, was me missing a lot of school and then feeling sort of terrified to go back again. And then that sort of, my depression sort of spiraled out of control of that. But that was just one thing that sort of tipped it over the edge. There was many things on that, and I'd recently been asked if I could pinpoint, many things lead you up to thinking about suicide, but if you had to pin one word, one feeling as to why you were doing it, what would it be? And I could think, a lot of it was, I don't know why, but the one feeling that was so strong in me was I felt worthless. And some of my closer friends and family will know this, that I struggle really bad with self-worth. I constantly feel worthless, and that was one of the main things that led me to choose suicide as an option. When you have depression, there's many different stages of it, and mine was quite severe. Add on my health issues, add on my severe anxiety, it sort of knocked me over the edge. And then add on the stress of trying to do my A-levels, I sort of couldn't hack it anymore. The first real sign for me when I knew something wasn't going particularly well was when I didn't want to be around anybody. Before my depression, I never used to like being alone. But now I didn't want to spend time with anyone. I was, not wanting to sit with people at lunch. I didn't want to meet up with my friends after school. I didn't want to be around my family. I was constantly, any moment I could, I was alone in my bedroom because I just didn't want to be around anybody. And then I had a mini panic attacks then after that, of ever having to leave my bedroom, even if it was just go downstairs to get a drink. I had a mini panic attack because I just couldn't do it. And that sort of started the spiral for me. Because when you have anxiety, you're not acting like someone else your age, you know. You are scared of the most stupidest things possible. I mean, I was having panic attacks about leaving my bedroom. And to me, that wasn't what normal people do. You know, people my age, we were 18, were going out having fun. And I couldn't do that because I was petrified of leaving my bedroom. Petrified of being around other people. And then that sort of led into me starting to feel more worthless than I already did. You know, everybody feels worthless at some point in their life. But with me, that feeling never went away. I started to question every single move I made. You know, anything I did, simple as doing a drink for somebody else, I failed at it. I constantly put myself down. I constantly, you know, if I made a drink for somebody, I would have to start again, or I'd just get into a massive sort of anxiety attack because I was convinced that I'd done it all wrong. Even if it was just getting some water from a tap, I was, you know, telling myself that it was wrong. I couldn't do anything right. And then it even got worse than that. Any little move, as in what colour socks I'd put on in the morning, it was constantly wrong for me. And when you have that much negativity about yourself and about who you are, it doesn't bode well for a really happy life. See, I'm already starting to go. I felt I was losing control of who I was. You know, I knew who I was. I loved to laugh. I loved hanging out with my friends and family. I was happy. You know, I was always willing to do anything for anybody. And all of a sudden, I had no idea who I was. I looked in the mirror and I couldn't tell you who I was anymore. I was looking at a stranger. And every time I looked in a mirror, you know, some people say, oh, I look quite all nice today and all this. To me, I looked in the mirror and I saw every single flaw I had. I saw and thought every negative comment I've ever heard from some people, from other people. I saw every time I looked in a mirror. And eventually it just sticks with you from when you're not even looking in the mirror, you know. I would think that people were laughing at me when they weren't even looking at me. I became paranoid that I was just a laughing stock to everybody. And I even started not wanting to hang out with my friends anymore because I was convinced they were doing it out of pity. They were only asking to meet up with me. They were only wanting to sit with me at lunch and in free periods because they felt sorry for me. They didn't want to be there because they wanted to be my friend. Even though some of those people I'd been friends with since year 8, all of a sudden that's all I could think of the reason was who would want to be around me. That was the reason. I was pathetic. And, you know, that really took its toll on me because it's really hard trying to live a life constantly having to guess every single move you make and then literally having a self-argument about how pathetic you are. It was really tiring and exhausting have to live with that. And I know I've mentioned it in previous videos that I'd carved the worst. Well, people knew that, you know, people from these blogs would know that I self-harm. But it got to the point where I didn't want to forget for a second that I was worthless. So what I did was I carved the word worthless into my upper leg, and it's still there today. You know, it's slowly fading, but even today, after all the therapy, I still hate the fact that it's getting lighter and lighter each day, because I wrote it there in my leg for a reason, because I never wanted to forget that I was worthless. I always wanted to have that constant reminder. So if I ever thought I was worth something, then it'd be there telling me that I was worth nothing. And even today I struggle with the idea of that mark disappearing, because I still feel that today, and it's still really hard. Feeling worthless was one of probably the biggest things that led to me deciding suicide. It was also, you know, I'd had health issues for a few years now, and nothing was ever getting better, and that was taking its toll on me. You know, I was struggling with school. I was dealing with stuff that had happened from when I was younger, and the recent loss of my grandpa that I'd all kept in, and it all seemed to came bubbling to the surface all at once and all spilled out. And all of a sudden, I had no control over my feelings, my thoughts. It was like someone had taken control of my brain all of a sudden and decided to just fill it to the top with horrible and negative things. And how are you meant to deal with that? How are you meant to deal with day in, day out, 24/7 of everything negative, not one thing positive? And it was like that for months. And as I said before, I had tried committing suicide a few attempts before, but, you know, I wasn't obviously successful. But this biggest one was, you know, I didn't want to just commit suicide on a whim. I wanted to plan it as a way that nobody could come home and find me. At the time, both my sisters were living at home, and so was my mum was there, and it was often hard to be completely alone for hours where nobody would find me after I'd taken the pills. And so, you know, I had some of it planned out. I'd written letters to family members and some friends explaining how it wasn't their fault. You know, there was nothing they could have done. I just couldn't go on feeling like this anymore. I just couldn't hack life anymore. It was too tiring to just get out of bed. It was a constant battle, and the other side always seemed to win, and it just, nothing good seemed good enough to keep me alive at that point. And you know, I wrote some things that I thought they might like, I would like them to have to remind them of me. And I also wrote in like some funeral songs and etc. And you know, I put some of favourite pictures of my family and other stuff, and I called that my suicide folder. And I had printed them all out, put them under my pillow so I knew that they would be found, and I planned it exactly for when everybody would be at the house, and they'd be at least 5 hours after I'd taken the pills, before anybody got home. And I did just that. Everything was going to plan, you know. I said goodbye and I said I love you like I did every time. You know, I tried to seem like nothing was going to change. They said that it wasn't the last time they were going to see me. And as soon as they left, I waited about an hour to make sure that nobody had forgotten anything. And I remember lining up the tablets that I was swallowing, making, you know. And I remember swallowing them. And for the first time, I felt relief. After I'd swallowed them all, I felt relief. Because, you know, my family could live a life they deserved. They could live a life without worrying about me. I would then be free from all the heartache and pain. By accident, because I was on my laptop, obviously before I'd left it on, I pressed a button on my laptop and an episode of Glee played. And that episode saved my life. Because for the first time, and I don't know how long, it made me feel something other than pain. It made me feel like, it made me feel joy. It made me smile. You know, I wasn't this worthless person. And all of a sudden, everything in me wasn't negative. There was a few positives in me. And that time, that seemed enough for me not to die. I ran into the bathroom and I threw up. It was sticking down my throat and I threw up, and I just remember crying and screaming because I didn't know what to do. Because I didn't know if I should ring somebody because I'd just taken so many pills. But then I didn't want anyone to ever have to find out. But I was also scared because all of a sudden I was capable of taking my own life. I'd done it. I had swallowed the tablets. I was ready to die. And if that episode hadn't played, I would either have been dead or had serious issues from all the pills I'd taken. And I was petrified. I remember after just after a long time of throwing up, I just hid in my bedroom under the covers and cried for hours, because all of a sudden I wasn't just self-harming. I was a girl who was capable of taking her own life. And that scared me to death. And I remember about 10 minutes before people came home, I was, trying to put on a brave face, and I just said I'd had a bit of a bad day. But and after that, everything seemed to get worse for me. But eventually, another bad thing happened, and my mum dragged me to the doctor, and I got help. That is the worst moments of my life, and it probably will be for the rest of my life, knowing that I was capable and very willing to end my life, and thinking that it'd be okay too. And I know people on here either know people who've committed suicide or tried, or people who actually are thinking about suicide or have even tried, or people who just haven't even thought about it. But it is a serious issue, and it's not a joke. You know, it's not for attention. People don't attempt suicide to get attention. They attempt it because the idea of living even just a minute longer is so painful to them that they can't hack it. And all they need is a little help. Some people can be saved from it. Some people, all they do is a bit of help. All they need is somebody to just give them a hand and prove that life is worthwhile and it's not worth ending it yet. And Glee did that for me. You know, Glee is my escape. You know, it's my place to sort of hide away from it and just relax and get away from my brain for a little bit. Even now, looking back and talking about that suicide attempt, it's horrible because all of a sudden those feelings in that exact moment come rushing back to you, and you can start to feel the same way you did then in that exact moment before you I tried to commit it. I have a really loving, supportive family that has been an absolute miracle for me, because they have been patient through all the therapy sessions, through all the pain that I know this has caused them, because they had, you know, my sisters had to find out that I didn't want to even be with them anymore. My mum had to find out her own daughter would rather be dead than be alive with her, etc. And they have been amazing and stuck with me through everything, and being the people that I've needed through it. You know, they have completely sort of carried me through it and are still doing it today, and so I owe them a huge thank you. Also, there are helplines if you need somebody to talk to. There are helplines out there, and I've rung them. I've been on the phone with them several times, helplines in the past, and they're really helpful. You know, they really helped me in a few moments where I wanted to try again. They've helped me and they've calmed me down, and they've, you know, they sorted me out. So I really recommend that before you give up completely, if you're that desperate that moment, give a helpline a ring, because they're truly amazing. A part of me still regrets today. You know, there's a part of me that regrets today that I didn't complete it, because I am still going through hell with my mental illness, and I failed at committing suicide, and that is a really hard part of me to fight. But there's a bigger part of me that also knows that I didn't want to be known as the girl that gave up. I wanted to be the girl that fought like hell. I want to be known for the girl that fought like hell, not the girl that gave up. I know this video has been long, but there was no way I could tell it any sort of shorter. And I know I didn't go into real depth, but but I couldn't, because it's far too upsetting for me to talk about the way I did now, and it's far too hard for me to try and relive it right now. But I hope that this video has helped you either understand suicide a bit more, or maybe helped you come to the conclusion not to give up quite yet. But as always, if you need to talk or anything, just keep messaging me and I will answer. And again, thank you very much for all the support the group's getting and for all the support you give me.